Now we'll start discussing one of the important loop, that is for loop. And for loop is the most commonly used loop. If you know in advance, if you know in advance that how many number of times you want to execute the loop body, then you need to go for loop, right? If you know that my loop is going to execute for 10 times, if you know my loop is going to execute for 20 times, that means if you know the number of times the loop is going to be executed, then you can use for loop. And for loop is a counter loop, right? Because you know the number of times the loop is going to be executed. Let us take an example and try to understand what do you mean by counter, right? Suppose you are preparing coffee and you don't know how to prepare coffee, then what you will do? Then you will take then you will take help from someone. You will ask someone to give instruction to you so that you can prepare the coffee. So someone has given you instruction to prepare the coffee, and you are following the instruction, and you are preparing coffee for 4 or 5 people. Then now the question is that how much sugar you should add. You do not know exactly how much. You know the process that this is I need to I need water, or I need milk, I need coffee powder, right? I need to boil. You know the process, but you do not know how much sugar you need to add, right? So what you will do, you will add some sugar, mix it, and check whether the coffee is sweet. If it is sweet enough, if it is not sweet enough, then again you will add some sugar and mix. So until the coffee becomes sweet enough, you will add sugar and mix it. So how many times you should add the sugar to coffee? It has no fixed answer, because you will add sugar to coffee until it becomes sweet enough. So this is not based on counting. This is based on condition. The condition is until and unless the coffee is not sweet enough, you continue adding sugar and mix it. This is not counting. This is based on condition. Now, somebody gives you instruction that add 4 tablespoons of sugar to make the coffee for your people, for people, right? So this is based on counting, because you know how many tablespoons of sugar I need to add. 4 tablespoons. This number is fixed. So when the number is fixed, then this is called counting, right? So there are many example exist in the real time where we do things in a fixed manner. So this is nothing but you can say counting. Now, now let us try to understand the flow chart. So in the case of a flow chart, so the for loop starts. Once the for loop starts, the condition will be checked. When the condition will be checked, there are two outcomes. Either the condition is false and either the condition is true. If the condition is false, what we need to do? If the condition is true, then what we need to do? If the condition is true, we need to execute the loop body. And once the loop body is executed, then again it will come and check the while loop. It will again come and check the for loop condition. Again the condition true, again execute the body. Once execute the body, again check the condition. As long as the condition is true, execute the body and check the condition. But once the condition is failed, then it will terminate the loop. Is that clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now it is very important to understand the functionality or how the for loop is work, right? Basically, for loop have 4 stages. One is initialization, second one is condition, third one is instruction execution, fourth one is increment and decrement operation, right? Okay, so why I'm putting loop initialization, condition, evaluation, execution of instruction, and then increment and decrement means now in for loop the conditional part is like this. Here it has three conditional statements. One is initialization, second one is conditional, third one is increment and decrement, and inside and this is your loop body. Why I'm putting the sequence like this? Because now first loop initialization part will be done. So see, whenever we are ending any statement with a semicolon, say it's an independent statement. Say initialization, you can see I am putting a semicolon. Condition, I am putting a semicolon. That means it is an independent statement. It is another independent statement, and this is another independent statement, right? So basically what it means, this for loop having three independent statement here, and this is independent, the instructions, right? So why I'm putting this sequences like this, now first this part will be execute, then this part will be execute, then this part will be execute, and then the increment is going to be executed, right? So in this sequence, the statement are going to be executed. I will show this in practical, but before that, let us understand what is all this statement is about. So loop initialization. Loop initialization means what is the starting point, right? Suppose you want to execute a loop for 10 times. So you have to provide some initial condition that my loop is going to start when the counter variable is 1 and it is going to end when the counter variable is 10. So that counter variable is 1 is nothing but your loop initialize. And the loop initialization happens only once during the execution of the for loop. That means whatever the statement you have written here, this initialization, that is going to be executed only once, and that is at the start of the for loop. That means that initialization is the starting point for your for loop execution. Is that clear? What is the use of initialization? It is going to initialize the counter variable, and it is going to execute it only once, and it is going to execute it as the first statement of the for loop. These three things is clear or not? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So once the initialization is done, then second is condition. Condition means again the same thing. It will evaluate some Boolean expression, right? Boolean expression means you have to provide some condition, and that condition is going to return you either true or false. If it return true, then the statement whatever written inside the body is going to be executed. If it returns false, then it will come out from outside of the loop, right? So the condition means it will either return you true and it will return false. And for each iteration, the condition is going to be executed. If the loop is executed for 5 times, if the loop body is executed for 5 times, then condition is going to be executed for how many times? Can anybody tell me? Anybody having any idea? You already work with for loop in your C, C++, Java, you have any experience?
If value is initialized for the first time with 0,
See,
and
I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that this loop body is going to be executed for 5 times. Forget
yes,
about the
It is
initialization.
also 5 times.
If the body is executed for 5 times, then how many times the conditional statement will
6
execute?
times.
Sorry?
6 times.
Later on the condition of body will execute it.
Absolutely right. Because for 5 times, if the body is executed 5 times, means the condition return true you 5 times. But when the then again it will check, and when it will check, it will return false. So when false, it will come outside the loop. That means if the body is executed 5 times, means conditional statement will execute for 6 times, right? So once the conditional statement is executed, it will return you either true or false. Once true, body will be executed. Once false, body will not be executed, right? And this conditional statement you should write in a such a manner that it should return you a Boolean value. It should return you true and false. You cannot write a 10, 20 like this in the conditional part, right? It should return you true or false. Then this conditional statement will execute for each iteration, right? Every time once you want to execute the loop body, this conditional statement is going to be executed. Then execution of an instruction, right? Once the condition returns true, the body is going to be executed, right? If the condition is false, this body is not going to be executed. Condition true means this body is going to be executed. Once it executes the body, then what it will do, it will come to this increment and decrement part. It will come after executing the body, it will come to this increment or a decrement part. And once it do the increment and decrement operation, then only it will come to this conditional statement. Initialization only once, that is done. After executing the loop body, it will increment and decrement the statement. Once this increment and decrementation done, then it will come again to the conditional part, not to the initialization, because initialization done only once. And and conditional for each iteration. If you want to execute the loop body, again you need to come and check the condition. So from here only it will come to this conditional part. And the condition, it will check whether true or false. If true, it will execute the loop body. And if it is false, then it will skip the execution body. So always beginning condition, statement block, and a increment and decrement statement only. Right? This is like the way we have execute our for loop. Now, let us see one example so that you will get better idea. Okay. So what we are going to do, we are taking a number from the user and we are printing the number up to that number. For example, if user enter 10, then I will print the value 1 to 10. If the user enter 5, then I will enter the number from 1 to 5. Right. Okay, let's run the application. I'm entering 5. So it will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or not. So now the important thing, now we need to understand the body. Okay. Okay. I'm entering the number 5. Please observe first which one, which statement. This is your conditional statement. Sorry, this is your initialization statement. This is your conditional statement. This is your increment operator, and this is your loop body. As per our thought process, first the initialization, the counter variable or the initialization part should be done, and it should be done only once. So first the initialization is happening or not. So once this initialization happens, the counter value will become 1. Now I'm pressing F10. So initialization done. So counter variable will become 1. After initialization, which statement is going to execute? The conditional statement. So now it will check what is the counter variable 1. What is the number variable? Number is 5. 1 is less than equals to 5. Condition satisfied or not? If condition is satisfied, then it will execute the loop body. That means this statement will execute. If the condition is failed, then it will come and execute this statement. Right? Now this statement, this conditional statement, let me put into add was so that you will get the value. Now, see, so this condition is true, right? And is as it is, so you just remember counter less than equals to number, it is returning true. As it is returning true, so it will come inside this body or not. Let's see that. See, before executing this counter plus plus, it will come inside the body. And once execute this body, then it will come to this counter plus plus. And once it increment the counter variable by 1, then it will come to this counter. Let's see this. Press F10. See, it will come to the body part or not. Once it execute the body, you will see one counter 1 is printed. So value 1 is printed, right? Once it print the value, then it will come to this counter. This increment and a decrement. See, it will come to this part or not. So now it will increment. Currently counter is 1. So once this statement is executed, so counter value will become 2. Let's execute. And once this counter plus plus will execute, the controller will move to this conditional part, not to this initialization part. Let's see this. Come to this conditional part or not. Now counter value become 2. Now this 2 is less than equals to 5. So it will return you true or not. So it is returning true. Now, so from this, it will again execute the loop body. See, it execute the loop body. And from loop body, it is going to the increment or a decrement. From increment, decrement, it is coming to the conditional. From conditional to body. From body to counter plus plus, or you can say increment, decrement. From increment, decrement to the conditional. Conditional to the body. From body to increment, decrement. Increment, decrement to the counter. Now, counter value is 5. So the condition is true. So it will come inside the body, execute the body. After executing the body, it will increment and decrement the counter. So counter is plus plus 5. So already 5 times the body is checked. Now again also it is checking. So counter value becomes 6. Once the value becomes 6, so you can see it is returning you false. So once it is returning false, the body will not be executed. So it will come outside of the for loop. So now function F10, see the body. So we are coming out from the loop. So now I hope you understand how the for loop is going to be executed. So initialization done only once, right? So this initialization is going to be done only once. This conditional statement is going to be executed the number of time the block executed plus one. After initialization, it will execute the conditional part. After conditional part, it will execute the loop body. After executing the loop body, it will execute the increment or decrement part or iteration, you can say. Once it executes the third statement or the increment decrement statement, it will come to the conditional part. From conditional to body, body to, so this is like a for loop. Loop means it is like a loop. Here to here, okay, from this to this, from this to this to this. So it is like a loop. So you understand or not how the for loop is going to work? Is there any doubt regarding the execution process of for loop? Which statement executed how many times? From where it will jump to which statement? Is that any doubt, or you can ask me if anybody having any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Now let's move to the next concept. Okay, and one more thing that I need to tell you is that so this initialization part and this this part are optional. Optional in the sense you can create them outside or inside. Outside or inside means, so see, I'm creating the counter variable outside of the for loop. This is also acceptable. I'm using this counter plus plus inside the loop body. This is also acceptable. Right? So in this case, counter variable is one that is executed. So it will come and check this statement. After checking this, it will execute this, it will execute this, then it will check the condition. Right? So it is not mandatory that you will put everything in the for loop. It is also possible that you can move the initialization and other statement to outside also. See, directly it is coming to this part. Why? Because the already initialization is done. Because the counter variable initialization is happened outside of the for loop. This is acceptable. And this increment and decrement operation is also done. Where it is done? It is done inside the loop body. See, directly it is coming because this incrementation and decrementation is done here. But now my question is that clear? So this is not mandatory. You cannot move the initialization outside of the loop body, or you can move the increment decrementation part inside the loop body. That is acceptable. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, because if you are not doing the initialization or increment decrementation, this is happening somewhere, na? Where it is happening, the initialization done here, and the updation and the incrementation and decrementation done here. So it is happening now. Now, if I remove this statement, then what happen? Can anybody tell me? Is it going to give you any error or anything?
I think it gives infinite errors.
Sorry, sorry. Can anybody tell me what will happen in this case?
It will going to execute that in infinite times.
Right. So it is going to be an infinite loop because we are using the counter variable. The number is a fixed value. It is going to be 5. And even this counter variable value is also going to be fixed. So I less than equals to 5. So 1 is less than equals to 5. Always the condition is going to be true. So in this case, you will get an infinite loop. Right? Okay. See, this is continue printing. See, it is going to be an infinite loop. So while you are working with looping, you need to take care there should not be any infinite loop. So this operation you can write here or you can write inside the loop body. But if you remove or if you do not have any operation statement, then you will face this infinite. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I'll show you another example. So in this case, you can see I have the initialization statement and I have the increment and the decrementation statement, but I do not have the condition. So what will happen in this case? Can anybody tell me? Why I'm giving these things now? In written interview, they will ask this question. They will put the code like this, then they will ask what will be the output. So you should know what the concept. See, the thing that you need to remember, if you do not, you can move this initialization part or this incrementation, decrementation part to anywhere, right? You can initialize this before the loop, and you can initialize this, or you can update this inside the loop body. But if you do not have this conditional part, because the third statement is the conditional statement, right? If you do not have the conditional statement, if you do not write anything, then by default, it is going to return you true. By default, it is going to return you true. And if it is return you true by default, then if you execute this loop, then what will be the output?
Maximum number of sync.
Sorry?
Maximum number of sync times.
So
Infinite loop.
Again, it's an infinite loop. Absolutely right. Whenever you do not have any condition, then by default it is return you true. And as the condition is return you true, then the loop is not going to be end. So it is a never-ending loop. So never-ending loop means it's an infinite loop. Clear or not? So can I write like this? Yes, you can also write like this. Again, what will happen? Then this is also going to be same.
Infinitely.
Right? Because there is no initialization, there is no increment, and there is no condition. As there is no condition, it is always going to be return you true. Now, here I'm writing false. So what will happen? See, as soon as I write false, so I'm getting a warning here. What warning it is representing? Unreachable code detected. That means if you are writing false, compiler know that the condition is false. As the compiler know the condition is false, he know this statement block is never going to be executed. And that's why he's giving you warning. Please check your code. Unreachable code detected. That means this code is never going to be executed if you write like this. But if I'm writing like this, if 2 is greater than 1, right? So in this case, this statement is going to return you false, but at runtime, not at a compile time. So we are not getting compile time error. Now, if you execute, sorry, I just made the mistake. So 2 is less than 1. So this is going to be false. So you will get the compile time error. So not error, it's a warning, right? So you need to check. So whenever you are working with your real-time project, if you are getting this warning message, that means you need to check your code. It is not an error. If you run, you will not get any compile time error. You will not get any runtime error. But it will give you some warning that there is some issue in your code. Please check it. If you are writing this code, that means you want to execute this code based on some condition. But the condition what you have provided in the for loop is never going to return you true. Then please check this. So this warning means it is giving you some suggestion. It is giving you some information, or it is giving you some warning. Please check the code, whether the code is fine or not. So whenever you are getting warning, don't ignore it. Try to read what warning message is giving you. So here you can see it's giving me unreachable code detected. What do you mean by unreachable code? Means this code is never going to be reached. This code is never going to be executed. So you need to consider these things when you are working with real-time application. Right? Now one more important thing that we need to discuss, that is nested for loop. Is that clear, first of all? Why we are getting this warning?
Yes, sir.
Why we are getting this warning? Is there anybody have any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, again, the nested for loop, like the while loop, like the do while loop, we can put a while loop inside another while loop called a nested while loop. When we put one do while loop inside another do while loop, then it is called a nested do while loop. The same thing when you put a for loop inside another for loop, then it is said to be a nested for loop. The syntax you can see. This is your outer for loop. This is your inner for loop. The working principle is also going to be same. The way I have shown you the working principle of for loop in the previous example. The same way it is going to work. But when the condition failed for the inner for loop, then it will terminate the inner for loop body only. It will not terminate the outer for loop. When the condition of the outer for loop terminate, it will terminate the outer for loop body. Right? Now let us understand one example. Okay. See, so my outer for loop, this is your outer for loop. And this is your inner for loop, right? So this is outer for loop and this is inner for loop. So this for loop will execute for how many times? The for loop body is going to execute for 5 times because it will, the counter variable will start from 1. 1 is less than 5 means as long as one value, I value becomes 5, it will execute. And so the body is going to execute for 5 times. And for each iteration of the outer for loop, the inner for loop is going to execute for how many times? 10 times.
10 times.
I value 1, j is less than equals to 10, right? So it will execute for 10 times. So here I am writing control.write. So for each iteration of outer for loop, the inner for loop is going to execute 10 times. So it will print the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once it print the value up to 10, then when the j value become 11, this inner for loop will execute, terminate. Once it terminates, this control.writeLine statement will be executed. What this control.writeLine statement will do, it will move the cursor to the next line, right? Then again, it will come here and check. Now, the second time, I value becomes 2. For 2, this for loop is going to executed for 10 times. For 3, this for loop is going to executed for 10 times. For 4, this for loop is going to be, inner for loop is going to executed for 10 times. For the value 5, this inner for loop is going to executed for 10 times. When the value of I becomes 6, this condition become false. And once this condition become false, the for loop will terminate. Let's run the application and see the output. You see, for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? To make you understand better, so what I'm doing here, okay, control.writeLine, right? Outer for loop, printing the IV loop. Okay, now see, for outer for loop 1, the inner for loop is executed for 10 times. For outer for loop 2, the inner for loop is executed for 10 times. For outer for loop 3, the inner for loop is executed for 10 times. While you are seeing the value 1 to 10 means this loop is executed for 10 times. The loop body is executed for 10 times. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me copy this code so that you will get better idea. Let me replace this code with this one. Okay. So now, some frequently asked for loop programs, right? So now I'm going to give you some task. So you just try to do the program. So you need to write a program to enter a number and check whether that number is a perfect number or not using for loop. So what is a perfect number? Now, a perfect number is a positive integer number that is equals to the sum of its positive divisors, excluding the number itself. For 6 has a divisor 1, 2, 3 because 1 into 6 equals to 6, 2 into 3 equals to 6, 3 into 2 equals to 6. So now if you add the divisor 1 plus 2 plus 3, then the number is going to be 6. So 6 is a perfect number. So I have written the logic here, right? So similarly 20. So if you calculate the divisor of 20, so you'll see that it is a perfect number. So I have given the code here, but before looking at my code, so you need to check, you need to write the logic by yours. So you just try to figure out how to find out the perfect number program. So the code is written here. If you don't understand the code, let me know. I will explain in the next session. Right? But for you, it is a task. So you just try to figure out how to write the number to check whether the number is a perfect number or not. Similarly, write a program to check whether a number is a prime number or not. So prime number means what? That number which is only divisible by 1 and itself, right? Then you need to check. So logic, you can see, so the prime number means it should not be 1, right? So 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. So these are prime number. So the logic is written here. So you need to check. We have already discussed the use of a for loop. We have already discussed the use of a break statement. So there is nothing to be new in this example, right? So whatever we have explained till now, those things I'm using and creating this program. So you just try to figure out if you are unable to identify how the program is executing, then I will show you and I will explain you the concept. Then again, you need to write a program to print the Fibonacci series up to a given number using a loop, right? So Fibonacci series means 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So you need to write the program by yourself. And if you are unable to write the program, then only look at the code. And even after looking at the code, if you are unable to understand how the code is written and how it is executed and how we are getting the output, then let me know. We'll discuss this example or we'll discuss this code in our next session.